Welcome ladies and gents, Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter, or of course you can subscribe to the channel. Let's talk boxing. I've already uploaded one video today. It was the technical breakdown and prediction video for Joe Joyce against Zhilei Zhang. I've put that up early in the morning so that you guys on your way to work, I'm talking to the British residents out there, you guys can have something to listen to help the commute go by a little bit more quickly. And this one's being scheduled to be uploaded at 5 p.m. so that for you 9 to 5 guys out there on your way home from work, you can also have something to listen to make the time go quicker. You see what a lovely, considerate guy I am. You lot are so lucky to have me in your lives. Moving on from that, let's talk about the heavyweight scene. And Simon Jordan said on Talk Sport that he's heard through the grapevine that the Saudis are planning a mouth-watering heavyweight tournament. Anthony Joshua would challenge Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder would challenge Alexander Usyk, and the winners of those two fights would face each other in a grandstand finale to crown the king of the heavyweight boxing world. What an incredible prospect that would be. I was watching Adi Oladipo's video, and he too alluded to this. When he was talking about the rumours, he mentioned perhaps Alexander Usyk fighting Tyson Fury, and then Anthony Joshua fighting Deontay Wilder in the other semi-final. In some ways, this makes more sense, because you would then get the undisputed title clash that we've all been demanding. You'd get that at the end of the year, and you would have that winner going into the final as the king with one last challenger to face up against. In some ways, it would reflect what happened with Alexander Usyk at the Cruiserweight Super Series, whereby he wins the tournament, but the guy who hadn't entered, who was another one of the kings, so to speak, in Tony Bellew, was awaiting him. And then he fought him after that, and then there were really no questions about who the top dog in the division was. Either way, whichever way you cut it, one thing I don't see is Fury facing Wilder in one semi-final. I don't think people have the appetite for that particular fight at this stage. So whichever way, I think it's going to be either Adi Oladipo's suggestion, Simon Jordan's suggestion, one of the two. If it happens, it would be absolutely sensational. And if anybody can make it happen, considering that they want to bring prestige to the kingdom, considering that they've got this huge financial war chest for making these sorts of events, it is the Saudis. So let's hope they can get it over the line. However, having said all that, in order for this to be the mouth-watering prospect that we all believe it can be, you need the fighters to be at their absolute best. And many of us feel that Anthony Joshua has not quite been the same. He looked a little bit gun-shy in his last fight against Jermaine Franklin, for instance. I have put out a video in the past, and recent video, where I was explaining that for me, what he went through against Andy Ruiz and then later reinforced against Alexander Usyk is in some ways akin to PTSD. And as a result of that, you need to heal the mind of AJ, and that can happen. This is not a case of a guy who's punch drunk or washed physically. This is a mental issue, perhaps. And if he's able to overcome that mental issue and be the bully he used to be, perhaps we can get AJ back. So the question I want to ask is he taking the right steps in order to be ready for a tournament that would occur in December? Well, we know that Tyson Fury is rumored to be fighting Andy Ruiz in the summer. We know that Alexander Usyk has a mandatory fight against Daniel Dubois. So both of those guys will be preparing in the interim. But Anthony Joshua put out an Instagram story to say that his next scheduled fight is for December. And he says it's not ideal, but everything is part of the bigger picture. Now, this sparked some rumours online about some sinister goings-on behind the scene. I've seen a lot of people talk about AJ failing a PED test and they're trying to brush it under the carpet. I have absolutely no idea where this rumour came from, but I find it extremely unlikely. First and foremost, with all of the spotlight that's been put on Matchroom and on the sport as a whole, I'm not sure they would brush anything under the carpet. They may keep it quiet until the hearing. That's not impossible, and a hearing does take time. But then would it be scheduling a fight for December? That's a risky thing to do, to schedule anything. I would have assumed they might have gone on radio silent. But in addition to that, there was somebody who tweeted Steve Kim to ask him, what is going on with Anthony Joshua? Why is it that his fight will be in December? And Steve Kim copied in Eddie Hearn. Now, this is nothing to do with the PED insinuations, by the way. There's no evidence for that whatsoever. But I'm just explaining here that Eddie Hearn's response to Steve Kim was all in good time with a little emoji that was winking. That would seem far too smug from Eddie Hearn. To me, this screams that they're going to come out with a big announcement, and it would be in line with something like that heavyweight tournament. I really doubt he would be this smug if there was such daunting news on the horizon. The dude will probably have a nervous breakdown considering all the things that he's gone through with the whole Conor Ben scenario. So I genuinely see nothing there, and please be careful about making unsubstantiated claims online. I get it. A lot of you guys see it as a bit of banter. You see it in this tribalistic way, in the same way that you have fans that support football teams and one football team's fans go at another football team's fans. But when you're talking about libel, you don't want to leave yourself open to being sued. So please be careful out there, guys, with the statements that you put out there as fact. So we're going to say that that is not the case, that is just a silly rumor. So we can assume that Anthony Joshua is preparing for something big in December, whether that is a Saudi heavyweight tournament or whether it's just a regular fight against a formidable foe. Something big is coming in December for AJ. So we need to ask ourselves, is he taking the right steps currently in order to be ready mentally, physically, and technically ahead of such a key date for him? Well, let's consider this, shall we? A couple of weeks ago, he gave an interview with Adi Oladipo, and he was talking about the typical sort of diet that he has, the cuisine that he enjoys. And as you can imagine, it was the cuisine of his heritage, Nigerian cuisine. And he was asked whether he finds that sort of cuisine in Texas. And he was saying no, he doesn't look for that sort of thing there. And they arrived at the conclusion that it was because he's there to focus on training. And a lot of people on Twitter, when I ran this by people, they felt that it was overkill. What's the big deal, AJ? It's only food. If it's food that you like and it's nutritious, who cares? You can have your food. But I kind of understand the other thought process coming from Anthony Joshua in this regard. He's essentially living a Spartan lifestyle. I'm sure you guys have heard that phrase. You see, the Spartans, according to military historians, are some of the greatest warriors there have ever been. And the way they became what they became is by dedicating themselves 24/7 to the pursuit of excellence in conflict. And that meant that there was no room for any comforts. All the little things that most people enjoy, to be comfortable bedding, heating, things like that, nice food, they would seek to cut that out as much as possible. They did not want any comforts because they had to be tunnel visioned. Their sole focus was how to become the consummate warrior that would win a battle. Win or return on your shield. Now, you know the phrase, he's gone out on his shield. That comes from the Spartans. When a Spartan soldier would die, he would be put on a shield on top of a horse and he would return home for a grand burial, the burial of a warrior, the burial of a hero. And the Spartans actually yearned for what was known as a good death, a death in battle as a hero. And if a Spartan had died with a wound in the back, for instance, an arrow in the back, they would not have buried him, because they would have assumed that he turned to run away from battle. He retreated. And so it showed cowardice. So everything was about turning your mind, preparing your mind for victory or death, a heroic death. It was one of the two. So Anthony Joshua, in some ways, seems to be going down that viewpoint of saying, I don't want any comforts. I'm here to train. I'm here to become a warrior. I'm not here to be eating nice food. Now, listen, that's not necessarily the correct approach, because there'll be other people that tell you no. A good fighter is a happy fighter. And if these little comforts help him and they're nutritious and they help him settle into life over there, then go ahead and do it. But perhaps AJ needs that hardened mindset to get back to that bully type character he was. The alpha male that looked to go in there and subjugate his opponent. I've spoken in the past on this channel about method acting. And I've spoken about how some fighters, and I think I was talking about Alexander Usyk in that particular video, will approach becoming a character in this sort of way. Method acting is essentially when an actor doesn't just act as the character that is created. He tries to become that person 24/7. So when Al Pacino, for instance, was starring in the movie Serpico, about a police officer who sought to root out corruption in the police, he became so intertwined with that character that when he was off set, when he was not filming, he is said to have stopped a car on the highway to try and write this guy a ticket for having a broken tail light. He weren't even a real police officer. But that's to the extent that he created Serpico. He was no longer Al Pacino. He was Serpico. You understand? And maybe that's the route that Anthony Joshua is going down, a method acting approach. Now, there have been a suggestion that one of the reasons he's taking this gap is to prepare himself psychologically, perhaps even by seeing a psychologist. Sadar Henry, shout out to Sadar, love chatting to Said. He posed a theory to me. He was saying, hypothetical scenario, AJ has finally admitted after his lackluster performance that he indeed has post-traumatic stress disorder. He's scared of getting hit and he can't let his hands go. So they decided to book a psychologist to work on the mental aspects of his game. As you know, the mind is tougher to heal than the body. Now, if Serdar is correct, and this is the approach Team AJ have taken, it's not conducive with being successful in trying to overcome PTSD. Because as I replied to Sed, there is a difference between theory and practice. Theory can only take you so far in overcoming a mental block. There comes a point where putting it into practice matters. In psychology, that's how desensitization works regarding phobias. You take gradual steps with a progression towards total exposure. So if you fear heights, you go to the top of the Statue of Liberty. Now, of course, you might not just go to the top straight away. You might go to the first floor. Then when you get used to that, you start going to the second floor, then the third floor, and eventually you get to the top. Whereas if you avoid the stimulus that is causing your mental discomfort, not only does that mean that you won't overcome it, but the comfort you get from avoiding it, that relief you get from not having to face your fears, it actually acts as reinforcement for your fears. It strengthens your fears. So as a result, Anthony Joshua needs to be active during the summer. He needs to be taking on big fights. And just so that you guys are aware that it's not just me talking, you can see various articles on this. On Psychology Today, for instance, you'll see an article from a doctor where she explains, help for anxiety. Facing your fears will heal your brain. If you avoid things that cause anxiety, you teach your brain to be more afraid because you are avoiding that fear and you feel relief, and relief acts as positive reinforcement. So if AJ is indeed feeling gun shy, he's scared of getting hit, he feels the pressure of that, he needs to be as active as possible. Fight again in the summer. Even squeeze one in the autumn, before December if you can. They can be knock-over jobs. It doesn't matter who it is. Get in a ring against Trevor Bryan if you want, who Daniel Dubois obliterated. Get Manuel Char in there. He's been hoping for a big money fight for ages. It doesn't matter who it is. But you need to be active. You need to be getting used to being under the spotlights. You need to be taking a shot here or there, and you need to be dishing it out too. Now, I personally believe he should take on a more formidable challenge. Fight somebody like Dillian White in the summer. And then your second fight, say in the autumn before the winter, that could be the proper knockover job. But either way, he has to be active. That's my opinion. That's how he gets back to who he was. That's how you mold the mind. Because it doesn't matter how much theory goes behind, AJ, you can do this. Don't worry about getting hit. If he hits a crisis in the middle of that tournament against a formidable foe, well, it's a very different thing to just sitting in a psychologist's office and going over certain coping mechanisms. It's different. Now it's sink or swim. You needed to have been swimming in the ocean for a while to ensure that you're not going to sink, that you're comfortable when those big waves come, that you believe in yourself, that you can swim yourself to safety. Let me know what you think, ladies and gents. But moving on from that, one last thing just to mention. Liam Payne from One Direction is said to be fighting Tommy Fury. They put out a post on social media to say this summer is coming, announcement tomorrow. A lot of people are taking this seriously. Personally, I think this is a bit of trolling. There's absolutely no way Liam Payne is going to fight Tommy Fury. First and foremost, the dude went and got himself some cosmetic surgery, as you can see here. I don't know why he did it. I think he looked a lot better before. That's just my opinion. But as you can see, he's got that Johnny Bravo overly chiseled jaw going on. The last thing he wants is for it to be absolutely shattered into 12 pieces, and it would not end well for Liam Payne if he was to go in there against Tommy Fury, who showed against Jake Paul, who does take his craft seriously, that he is a lot better than these average YouTubers. It would not end well for Liam Payne. But let me know if you believe in that rumor too. But more importantly, this video was about Anthony Joshua and his mindset. Do you think he is preparing in the best possible way in order to be ready for a Saudi heavyweight tournament? That would be absolutely mouth-watering. Please don't forget to hit a stiff jab on the like button, a right cross on the subscribe button, and an uppercut on the notifications button. Thanks for watching, everyone. Chat to you soon. Take care. God bless.